And you already see how it's going to start, unfortunately. He's
Bang, bang! Super Bowl bound. Vegas bound.
All right. Well, now that we have the obnoxiousness out of the way, we can go ahead and move on and actually talk about the game itself. So, first thing on the agenda is going to be the conference wrap-ups for both the games on Sunday. We're going to, unfortunately, start with the Lions at the 49ers. Now, I want you to take me through this real quick. First thing, so two different cultures here. One, the Lions are coming off of their first playoff win since the 1991 season, and it's the first NFC Championship game that they've made to period ever. And on the other side, the Niners are coming into their third straight NFC Championship game, fourth in 5-year span, after facing the Chiefs in Super Bowl 54. 4 years ago, the Niners lost to the Rams in 2021 and the Eagles last season, and it nearly looked like 3 straight losses. Detroit stormed out to a 24-7 lead. Just at that point right there, 24-7. I know I get the text messages and the Snapchat stuff. For the viewers, for a 49ers fan, what is going through your mind when the Lions are up 24-7? What's going through your mind at that point?
Oh, I know we were going to win.
You just knew it was going to happen. Yeah, okay. I was like, bullshit.
You know what the thing was I was furious because it was like, oh, we haven't played well since the Eagles game. Like we dismantled the Eagles. We haven't played well since then. So I'm like, we had to play nobody down the stretch. We had the bye. We looked awful against the Packers. We've looked awful this first half against the Lions. The Lions aren't a team that you can look awful against because their offense is so good.
And you guys had a similar situation against the Cowboys, too, earlier in the season. You guys beat the Cowboys, beat the shit out of them, and then you guys, stumbled the next couple of games right after.
Yeah, I mean, that obviously the loss of Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams in the game after caused that, but we're healthy. Now, I'm going to say it 16 times. It's really, the defense is really pissing me off. We're the 26th ranked rush defense in the league right now. After Hufanga tore his ACL. That's an important aspect of this. We can't set the edge even though we run the wide 9 defense. Chase Young and Nick Bosa are getting picked off by down blockers, by wide receivers, which is, if you're Nick Bosa, if you're Chase Young and they try to use a wide receiver to block down on you, you have to make that wide receiver pay. You have to hurt him for doing that. And then the corners have to fill their roles and you stop the run. Now, we've ran into an Aaron Jones who was one of the best running backs the last month of the season, and we ran into this Montgomery Gibbs thing that they've done really, really well. But the defense is not giving our offense any opportunity to stumble at all. And Brock Purdy, unfortunately, has come out of the gate slow 2 weeks in a row. And I'm just like, our team was historic this year. Brock Purdy was historic with his efficiency and the way he could pass the ball. We're really going to go out like this on a whimper? This is what I'm thinking of at halftime. We're going to go out on a whimper. We're not going to play well the last 6 or 7 weeks of the season. We're not going to give it our best. We're not going to see what this team can do. How is it going to end this way? And then I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Every great coach gets their ass kicked. You know what I mean? Belichick lost. Andy Reid got fired from Philly. Like, it happens. But when you have this team that from week 1, we were Super Bowl contender favorites, it's been anointed. We were Super Bowl contender favorites last year and had that terrible loss in the NFC Championship game. This is how we're going to go out to the Lions, to the poverty franchise Lions. Are you kidding me? Like, they've been saving up for 40 years to go to a playoff game, and their fans are everywhere now because they got all this money because they haven't had to spend it on the playoffs in 117 seasons, and we're going to lose to the Lions. To Jared Goff, we own Jared Goff. Sean McVay sent Jared Goff packing because he couldn't beat us. No, I refuse. And I was going to turn it off. And then I'm thinking to myself as they close out the half, I'm like, I need them to go for it. I need them to go for the touchdown. I need them to miss this touchdown, go for it on 4th. And they kick the field goal. It's 24-7. I'm like, Kyle Shanahan will not call an offense to allow us to get back in this game. He's going to come out and try to run the ball like he always does. He's going to try to run play action. He's not going to put Brock in the put 4 wide, 5 wide, and let us come back in this game. This is a wrap. That's where I was at halftime. Even if we came out and switched everything around, we were going to need terrible decision making. We were going to need turnovers, and we were going to need a shit ton of luck. And you know what? Check 1 box, check 2 box, check 3 box. We got all 3, and we're headed to the Super Bowl.
No, absolutely. And the thing is you can, especially hang your hat on a couple of really frustrating things on the first half. Like, dude, some of those clips of Chase Young in that first half are bad.
He's terrible. He's terrible.
Piss poor, no effort, doesn't give a shit type effort. It's no surprise that he's gonna end up being like perma benched, and no, it's gonna be a really hard time for anyone to sign him coming up this next offseason. I mean, you see it, it's bad. You mentioned it this past week, and I started to pay attention to it during the game, and then the clips started to surface right after the game, and I was like, this is really bad. This is worse than I was expecting bad, because as fans, we can make everything a lot worse, but this is everything you said it was, maybe even a little bit worse on top of that.
Do you remember the clips last year after the NFC Championship game against the Eagles where they showed it was Jason Kelce throwing Javon Kinlaw all over the place? That's our defensive tackle we took in the first round, and he was getting his booty moved off at every spot.
Yep.
They literally put Kinlaw in at defensive tackle and kicked Eric Armstead out to defensive end. He hasn't played defensive end in like 5 years. He's a great defensive tackle, not great at defensive end. They stuck him out at defensive end because there was nothing left. We were like, you know what? Put Armstead and Bosa on the ends and put these guys in the middle, and at least they'll run up the middle, and maybe the linebackers can come up, because this whole the wide receivers are blocking down, then they're pitching out on us. Pacheco, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, those are power running backs.
Yeah,
I guarantee you all week this week they're working on that pitch. Block down, pitch out. Block down, pitch out. And they're going to run the ball 700 times on us to try to see if we figured it out or not.
Yeah, no, for sure. So then that's the halftime mentality. Detroit came out in the second half and did not score another point until the final minute. A bunch of things factored into this. Poor tackling was an issue for Detroit's defense. For a few plays, the Niners gained extra yards because the Lions couldn't wrap up their tackles, and the Niners took advantage of it, moving up the chains. And one play turns into another play, which turns into another play, and it just kind of stacks and it rolls and rolls and rolls until it's a giant snowball that you cannot stop. And that's what kind of the second half turned into. And they missed out on a couple sacks as well. Brock Purdy broke away from a few sacks, didn't just escape, but he ran the ball or threw it for a big gain. And that's the thing is, if you lose to Brock throwing, that's fine. But for Brock it almost felt like damn near iced the game on that, what was it, a 30-something yard run or whatever it was. You can't let Brock Purdy run like that on you. That's crazy. You can let Lamar run around on you. You can let Jalen Hurts run around on you. You can't let Brock Purdy go off for a huge gain like that. That's crazy to me. If you want to defeat the Niners, you have to stop them when you get your hands on them. You can't just let them break off. And that's the thing is they have so many players. You guys have so many players that just because you get the hands on them, you can't stop them. Christian McCaffrey, sneaky, Debo, you can't stop some of these guys. And Brock, you could throw into that category too.
There was multiple plays. Obviously he had the 3 rushes for like 52 yards or whatever, but there was the play where he was sacked. Like it was over. Like he was wrapped up and sacked. He gets away, throws that pass to Kyle Juszczyk, tiptoes. And then there was another play where he rolls out left. He commits the cardinal sin. He throws across his body on a third down to a off the hands catch that Juwan Jennings made, 3rd and Juwan. So he was his mobility. I got to tell you, there's a reason. If you look at Jared, I don't have him because I'm not the stat guy. That's you. I don't have him, but Jared Goff was absolutely horrendous when we could pressure him. When Nick Bosa was getting home, his stats in that game were terrible. And guess what? Jared Goff can't move. Brock Purdy can. That's why we won that game, is because at the end of the day, Jared Goff, if he has Brock Purdy's mobility, is probably a top 5 quarterback in the league, but he's not. He's a sitting duck. So what it came down to was one quarterback that could get outside the pocket and make plays, a bunch of drops, the immaculate deflection off of the dude's face mask. And people can say whatever they want, but that was that was more closer to an incomplete than it was an interception. That would have been one of the greatest interceptions of all time. But the concentration it takes to make that catch, a phenomenal play by Brandon Ayuk. And that's why I've always said you throw the ball deep because you can get a completion, you can get a non-completion, you can get a PI. Yep. There's a whole bunch of stuff you can get when you test the ball deep. So, and then that throw on the very next play, he threads it between two defenders to Brandon Ayuk for the touchdown. That's a nice throw. It's just, I understand it's the Chiefs, but goddamn, if we can play a good game, if the 49ers that beat the Eagles can show up, if the 49ers that beat the Cowboys can show up, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs scored 17 points. We should be able to put up 30. Should.
Yeah,
Will we? I don't know.
I think that, and again, we can go round and round on this again. I don't understand it. I would love to get someone in here that has a bunch of Brock Purdy hate. I don't understand it. You watch him play and he passes every single eye test that you can actually put on there. So not only can you look at the stats, you could look at the advanced statistics too, but then you could just throw on the film and he passes the eye test on the things that he's doing. It's for the team. I don't understand it. Like, sure, I don't think he's, maybe this year, but I don't know. He's not going to be in my mind, a permanent tier 1 type quarterback. Tier 1 quarterback, you win because of these guys. He's like in a tier 2 type situation, but he's not tier 3. He's not tier 4. He's not tier 5. He's not any below that tier 2 placement. Brock is who he is. And that's really, really, really good. Some people use that as an insult, but it's not. I don't understand it. I don't understand the hate. It's misplaced. It's wrong. It's misdirected. I get it. The Niners are stacked. They have the Avengers on offense and defense, but I don't get it. Not every quarterback in the history of the NFL is going to have nobody around him. Everybody has a supporting cast one way or another.
Well, what's the discourse behind Tom Brady? How did all these teams miss so many times on this guy? What's the discourse on Tony Romo? How did this guy undrafted Kurt Warner? You know what I mean? It's just, if you admit that Brock Purdy is a baller, you admit that your team screwed up. And I think that's why people want to hate on him. Because if he was the number 3 pick and he was Trey Lance instead of the 3rd string quarterback for the Cowboys, and he was doing all this, people would just be calling him a superstar.
Yeah.
The last pick in the draft took the team to the NFC Championship game last year, and we would have won, but he got hurt. And then he has a surgery that only 2 quarterbacks in the history of the world have had, comes back from that and leads the team to the Super Bowl. If you're hating on that, you're just a hater, and that's all it is. There's a few athletes that do everything right, and there was a clip after the game where Nick Bosa walks up to Brock Purdy and he goes, "Hey man, I don't know if you've ever heard Bosa talk, but he talks like he's a stoner. Hey man, do you ever doubt yourself?" And Brock Purdy's like, "No, not really." And Nick Bosa's like, "I don't know, man. I was the 2nd overall pick, and even I had doubts." And Brock Purdy's like, "No, I could be better." And that's just it. It's the mentality, man.
Yeah,
it's just. And after the game, I don't know if you saw. You probably turned it off or something through your remote at the TV. But Brock Purdy, he celebrates and he pounds his chest. And what does he do next? He runs right to Kyle Shanahan and they have this hug. And you know what, man? Kyle Shanahan has had 2 awful games in terms of play calling to get the game started. But he's got a quarterback that he trusts. And as I'm sitting on the couch right now, I think there's a parade in San Francisco 2 weeks from now. Now, that's probably going to change 1,000 times in the next 2 weeks. But we should already beat them fools in the Super Bowl once if we had a quarterback that could make a throw. So we'll see.
And as I sit here now in this chair, I say, fuck off. Can we have a weird conversation about Dan Campbell real quick? This is something that's already been mentioned on the podcast before, and I'm
probably not going to agree with you, but we can have it.
Dan Campbell has turned the Lions organization and the culture in the locker room around completely. This team was nothing horrible.
Oh, you're trying to do him like the Warriors did Mark Jackson. You're trying to have him turn around the culture and replace him now that they got to go to the next level.
he's done a lot of good, and I'm not saying to replace him, because he's, especially since he's a new coach. This is the first time he's come into a head coaching job. Now that he's coaching in the upper echelon of coaches and games and competitions for the playoff spots in the NFC Championship game, and even when he's playing higher level teams, this isn't the first time where you go and you look at the aggressiveness of Dan Campbell or some of the decisions to keep players in the games. This isn't the first time where you look at him and you go, what are you doing?
I'm with
I
you.
get it. When the aggressiveness works, you praise it. You love it. You praise it. You want to give him a round of applause and go, that's amazing. A lot more teams should be aggressive like this. But when it doesn't work, you look at him, you go, what are you doing? Just kick the field goal. Don't go for 2 a million times against the Cowboys. Don't let Sam Laporta play the last game of the season for no reason when you're going to still have the 3 seed. And there's other examples as well. These are just a couple.
The reason why I hate this discourse, though, not to cut you off, is that everybody keeps saying taking points off the board as if the 3 points, the field goal, was a guarantee. That dude has not
Absolutely.
been great in his career, and he's not Justin Tucker. So our discourse, if he had gone for the field goal and missed the field goal, how can you go back on what you've done all season? You've played the same way all season. You've done this all season. Then you went back when it came down to crunch time, when it came to grab your balls and make a decision, you went back on who you are. That's what the conversation would be.
And
And
I understand that as a Cowboys fan, because I yell from the rooftops that Mike McCarthy changed the entire offense once we got into the playoffs. That playoff game was not the Cowboys offense at all. So I'm going to shout it from the rooftops the exact same thing. I agree with you there, but I think there at least needs to be like a little bit of an eyebrow raise. Be like, you should probably keep an eye on it for the next couple of seasons, because if he continues to make big time coaching like random blunders like this, and you have the roster in place, I don't know if you have to. I don't know what you have to do. I don't say full on move on from the guy. I like Dan Campbell, but I think that he's, just because his team got to the NFC Championship game, I'm not going to put him in the upper echelon of coaches. There's a lot of, again, mistakes and blunders that I can't just move past it, and you can
well,
have an awkward conversation.
as we're sitting here today, it's been reported that his OC is coming back, so it's not
Yeah.
that bad.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
I thought that the Eagles should get rid of Sirianni to keep Steichen, and I think if they could go back and do that, they would. And I thought to myself, yesterday when it was announced, I think it was, that their OC was coming back, I was like, wow, are they really going to make a move on Dan Campbell? Like, are they bringing this OC back with the conversation with him? Like, hey, if it doesn't work out, you're the guy here.
Hmm.
And obviously, it looks like they're running it back with him. The one thing about Dan Campbell is he is a play caller. Jared Goff played really well with him as a play caller. He's not just your CEO head coach, but
Yeah.
I'm with you. To take a page out of my book, you got a little baby red flag on Dan
Yeah.
Campbell moving forward. The one thing to me that was a little more shocking, I guess, was in the press conference afterwards. He was in tears. And that's
Oh
cool.
yeah.
That's cool. But his comment about how he told his team, like, this is it, because
Yeah. This was our shot.
we may not make it back here.
Yeah.
That was like really interesting to me. I'm like, wait a minute, your team's hella young, man. I know I said that I wouldn't extend Jared Goff a couple weeks ago, and some guy made a comment like, "Oh, he's only, you act like he's 37, he's still young." I get it. I don't see the Lions going anywhere, and for him to, I mean, I know the NFC, you got the Eagles, and you got the Cowboys, and you got a lot of pretty talented teams. You don't have the quarterbacks that the AFC does, but I was just like, that's a super weird thing to say, especially if you want to fire up your team
for him.
If you want to fire up your team going in the fourth quarter, guys, we got to get to the Super Bowl this year. This is our shot. But to say it after the game, like, yeah, you know what? We had a hell of a year. We probably won't be back here next year. And now I'm going to cry. I was like, that's weird, bro. That's really off topic for you, or off brand, I guess.
Absolutely off brand. I mean, this is the same guy who said, we're going to bite off kneecaps coming in, and he's the guy who's constantly fired up. He's the guy that you see in the post game, the locker room clips of him firing up his team regardless, and he's that guy. That's why I feel like sometimes he gets pegged as a player's coach. Some people don't realize he's a play caller too. But the point is, for him to all of a sudden get completely, almost like disassociated with the game and the coaching, and just completely set himself back and be like, this is it. This was our shot. Again, like you said, I don't see the Lions going anywhere. We're going to take a look at the Lions offseason outlook right after we talk about the next conference game. But we're going to dive deep on every single one of the teams, off seasons, what they should do, biggest free agents they should sign, re-sign, that sort of stuff. And the Lions are going to come up. But I don't see us looking at the Lions and going, that may have been their season. They have a lot of free agents, and the guys who are there, you're not going to be able to bring them back. And sorry, this is it. I don't see that. And it'll be interesting to see what comes of that and what the reasons were, because there's always something that comes out.
Did you see their safety waving goodbye to the 49ers fans at halftime?
Yeah.
And the blindside block he laid on Debo? I know they got their history, but I'm just like, bro, that's a terrible look. Like, how do you, like,
Yep.
I remember there was a game last year, I think, Sean McVay, they went up like 10 or 13 points on the 49ers, and Sean McVay ran down into the end zone and was celebrating in the end zone with his players after they scored a touchdown, and then we came back and kicked their ass, and they made fun of them for a couple weeks for it. But at halftime, bro, like, you're the Detroit Lions. Like, I guarantee you, if we pulled up a panel of Lions fans, and not Lions fans from this year, but guys that have been Lions fans for 30 years, hey, you guys are going to be up 24-7 at the half, dominating the 49ers. How shocked are you that you lost the game? They'd be like, no, that's Detroit Lions football. I mean, how are you gonna? I did enjoy the pictures of my guy Marshall Mathers at Levi Stadium flipping all the 49ers fans.
I saw that.
That was pretty fun. And I know the NFL's disappointed they don't get Eminem versus Taylor Swift in the Super Bowl, but I guess we'll just have to bring E40 or something.
Oh man. All right, let's move on to the other side of the conference games. The AFC, we had the Ravens and the Chiefs playing each other in Baltimore. Battle of the good defenses, great defenses, top 5, top 3 defenses. And even though that was the case, each team got off to a pretty hot start. And I thought from the opening drives, I thought we were about to have a crazy game. I was like, this is going to be a classic, bro. This is going to be awesome. And then they kind of settled in. They settled in, and there was glimpses of Lamar Jackson's heroics. But Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, which congratulations, breaking Jerry Rice's record for most postseason receptions. And then the Chiefs they largely just controlled the first 30 minutes, and then taking a 17-3 lead into halftime, and ended up being 17-10. Obviously, was the final score, but the Ravens couldn't get it rolling. Lamar Jackson, again, you saw the glimpses, but you just didn't see it in full. I have something floating in my camera. They couldn't recover from the first half deficit, and it wasn't really a deficit. It was just 10 points, so calling it a deficit probably isn't correct there. But you got to give props to the Kansas City defense here. I mean, this is a really, really good defense, and that's why I'm a little excited for the Super Bowl, because the defenses are going to show out. That doesn't make for great casual football, but when you watch it from an actual football fan's perspective, great defenses, good games. But this defense deserves a ton of credit here, forcing multiple turnovers, namely Zay Flowers diving in for the end zone and fumbling it. L'Jarius Sneed, shout out to him, because dude has had a shutout season, 59.1 passer rating allowed when targeted during the regular season, locked up number ones all season, and then he goes and makes Zay Flowers fumble right there at the 1, and it ended up being a touchback. So, which I know you have some gripes about, you don't dive for the end zone, that sort of thing, but I thought this was going to be a like a shootout type game, and I thought it was going to be super duper exciting, but then again, defenses settled in and they came to play. We're going to have a discussion about Lamar Jackson, but what's your thoughts about this game in total?
I questioned from the jump what the Ravens were doing. I don't know. I would have came out and pounded the rock. I'd have run the shit out of the ball. I don't know why they tried to turn it into a shootout with Lamar. That's not his strength. He played really well this year. Obviously MVP. Mostly
made
because
great
of
strides in the passer.
Yeah, down season for the players that throw the ball this season, which is why Lamar's getting that MVP. I mean, let's be honest. Brock Purdy is Mr. Irrelevant, and he's that second tier, third tier QB. He was a MVP favorite at one point. Dak Prescott was an MVP favorite at one point. Not a great year for quarterbacks, but Lamar's going to win the MVP. But they just came out with a weird game plan. And maybe they just felt like they couldn't run the ball at all against the Chiefs, but to just abandon it from the jump, Obviously,
Yeah.
him fumbling into the end zone. I hate the play. I hate the rule, to be honest with you. I hate that touchback rule, but we won't even get into that. Um, they do not teach, you are not taught to dive for the end zone like that. If
Right.
it's fourth down and if it's everything, but when it's first down or it's about to be a first down and you're the Ravens, you have Lamar Jackson, you have 4 more plays or 3 more plays from the 1 yard line, dude, come on, bro. You don't need to be a hero.
Yeah.
And I think that you just saw with the Chiefs and the 49ers, veteran teams, players that have been there before. And the other 2 teams you saw really relied on rookies, and
Yeah.
it did them in.
Yeah.
Ravens defense did great. They held the Chiefs to 17 points. Chiefs defense obviously played really well, but I just questioned the play calling. I felt like they should have came out and really ran the ball. And the thing is playoffs are different, man. It's a different atmosphere. It's a different situation, and you just have to leave it all on the line. And I would, if I could have a private conversation with Lamar Jackson, not that I'd ever be able to do it, I would just ask him. I'm like, that game plan was that giving it everything you had? I know he threw that pick into triple coverage in the
Yeah.
end zone, but the tight end raised his hand. He said, "I'm open. Throw me the
Yeah.
ball." So
Yep.
that's on both players. If you trust your player, you know what I mean. You make the throw. Obviously, wasn't a smart throw, but the tight end said he was open. You got to give the dude a chance to make a play, and obviously, we saw the way that turned out. So, do you know that Patrick Mahomes sack, fumble, or interception 2.1% of the time he gets sacked, he fumbles, or he throws an interception, and the league average is like 10, 9 points something. Like it's not even just like, oh, he's the greatest quarterback, greatest talent we've ever seen. It's just like the dude, like, I would feel pretty comfortable putting like $1,500 on a prop bet for the Super Bowl that Mahomes will not throw a pick because he just
Yeah.
doesn't. He's had a
Right.
full season of playoff games, and yes, shout out to Travis Kelce. We talked a lot about Patrick Mahomes' performance in the playoffs. We didn't mention Travis Kelce this week, but shout out to him.
Yeah, for sure.
They asked Jerry Rice about it, and he was like, "Yeah, that's cool. I got a bunch of records." Patrick Mahomes got like 7 interceptions in the playoffs. He's played 17 playoff games. Now he's got 7 interceptions. And this isn't the regular season where you play a bunch of bums. You don't get to play the Washington Commanders, the New York Giants twice a year in the playoffs. You're playing the best teams for 17 games, and he's only thrown 7 picks. And I bet if we pulled up the film and watched all 7, 4 or 5 of them bounced off of someone's hands or were tipped at the line. So
I think that because the Empire, the Darth Vader stormtroopers have shifted from the Patriots to the Chiefs. All the hate is now directed towards them. People hate success at the end of the day. They despise success. I mean, all you see, there's only a couple of things that you see when it comes to the NFL right now. One is Taylor Swift posts, and then 2 is on the other side when it comes to fans saying, Niners, please save us. Brock Purdy, please save us from another Chiefs victory, and then I'm sitting in the middle and I say, please, for the love of God, please, I'm begging you, don't let the Niners win, please. And that's me. And plus, I like the legacy stuff for Patrick Mahomes. I have no problem with it. The thing is I didn't watch all of Tom Brady. I didn't get to witness all of it. I didn't even watch football really when it was Randy Moss and Tom Brady. I remember Randy Moss on the Niners more than I remember them with the Patriots. I mean, that's when I grew up. That's when I was watching it. So me being able to actually witness greatness like this, a level of greatness not seen many times in sports, and the fact that it happens back to back, Tom Brady right into Patrick Mahomes, is phenomenal and great work by the football gods. It's great to see, and I like the legacy part of it, and I want him to continue to win. If it's not my team who's going to win, which it never does, but if it's not my team who's going to win, I'm gonna root for who has the best legacy going into this. That's what I'm going to root for.
I definitely prefer that it's the Chiefs and not the Ravens, because I feel like in 10 years, if we look back and say, man, the Niners of the 2020, 2019, 2020, 2021, those Niners, man, they were world beaters. How do they not have a Super Bowl? It's like, well, they lost to Mahomes and Andy Reid twice. It's like, oh, that makes sense. Yeah. I think the thing about Andy Reid, man, is he's fat. He loves McDonald's, He's a true-blooded American. He left the field and he went and got McDonald's. Like, everybody loves that, whether they want to admit it or not, you know? And I think it's funny when Mahomes, because he's, you know, he has his little run that he does, and he's kind of a weirdo, and he looks like a crybaby sometimes when he's complaining about the calls, but he just, I think that it's so hard to play quarterback in the NFL, to watch somebody do it at the highest level year in and year out.
Yep.
And they got to lose eventually, don't you think? I mean, he lost to Tom Brady his first year. They lost to Tom Brady again in the Super Bowl, and then he's lost to Joe Burrow. And besides that, that's it.
Yep.
Now, with Mahomes' legacy, we're going to talk about Brady twice, Burrow once, and Brock Purdy. It's a story in itself. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the 49ers.
We had this conversation earlier in the playoffs, though, that this playoff run means the least to one person, and it's Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It means the least to them. But then now that they're in the Super Bowl, it's like, damn, now I want it more than ever. Now, something I do want to mention real quick about Travis Kelce is Travis Kelce's been making comments about how he wants this more than any other Super Bowl, and he wants it really, really, really bad. I would find it incredibly interesting if he won the Super Bowl and retired, and Jason announced his retirement right after. It wouldn't surprise me. And
I think he's close.
A lookout on it. He's mentioned it, and there's been whispers of it. And then since Jason has talked about retiring, Travis has talked about retiring at the same time. And all his comments being like, I've never wanted it more. This is it. Like, I want this so bad. We don't hear that out of Travis. It's interesting. And I think it's something to keep an eye on. Once that confetti falls, whether it's red and gold or red and white, we're going to see someone's retirement, I think, at the end of it.
I mean, yeah. Is it going to be Travis Kelce retiring with the Super Bowl trophy, or is it going to be Trent Williams retiring with the Super Bowl trophy? There's definitely options. The tight end is not a. I mean, we saw it with Gronkowski. Like, he just broke down as he got older. It's a tough position when you're expected to work over the middle and block and everything. And even watching George Kittle, you know, I looked up and he had 1,000-yard season. It was pretty surprising. It's just he's slowed down over the years. And it's, you know, Eric Armstead is he's getting up there and not playing as well. It's just there's for the Chiefs, I think as long as you have Mahomes, your championship windows are always open. But they have to retool in the offseason. The 49ers are going to have to retool in the offseason because their offensive line is terrible. Their defensive line is paid a lot of money, and they're not playing well. So I think it's a big legacy game. It's a legacy game for Kyle. It's a legacy game for a lot of people because there's a lot of veterans that have been really good in this league for a while, and this may be their last chance at this. Although if you told me the Chiefs won and then they went out and added Mike Evans and a rookie and then they were back there next year, who was going to be